Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the Caribbean. It is Tuesday evening, November 29th, 2022. Before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Also, feel free to leave a comment telling me what the weather has been like in your area recently. Feel free to also ask me any questions about what the weather will be like in the future. I will respond to each and every one of your comments because I really live for this stuff. Alright, so let's just take a look at the significant feature map across the Atlantic for this evening. We see where we have a cold front stretching all the way from the North Atlantic down towards the southern tip of Florida. We have a trough right there in between Hispaniola and Puerto Rico. We have a cold front stretching from the northeastern Atlantic, which has induced a trough all the way down towards the northern portion of the main development region. Now, before we even get into the meat of the matter, let me remind our viewers what these are. We should all remember that eastern parishes refer to those parishes in the county of Surrey, so Portland, St. Anne, Kingston, St. Thomas. Central parishes, Middlesex, county of Middlesex parishes, so St. Anne, St. Mary, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester. Western parishes, Cornwall, so Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland. When I refer to northern and southern parishes, we should all remember that those are Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland. Southern parishes, St. Thomas, Kingston and St. Andrews, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland. Now let us talk about what happened today. We had a mainly sunny day across the entire island. We had some build-up of clouds across portions of inland areas of central parishes, so portions of northern St. Catherine, northern Clarendon, northern Manchester, portions of St. Elizabeth, especially Westmoreland, got in on some amount of rainfall, some isolated rainfall in some spots. Alright, so let's continue. Let's talk about the forecast. But before we even jump into the forecast, let me remind our viewers about the various compass directions that are there. So we all know north, south, east, and west. So when I say northeast, you know it's right there in between north and east. Southwest, right there in between south and west. Southeast, right there in between south and east. And northwest, right there. And you know we have our intermediate directions: north northwest, north northeast, east northeast, east southeast, south southeast, south southwest, west southwest, and west northwest. So let us talk about the wind direction for tomorrow, shall we? We see we're having more of a strong wind flow coming in, anywhere between 10 to 20 knots across the island from the northeast or east northeast. On the Euro, the GFS is showing something quite similar. And where does all of this air pile up? Where do we see the blues for less wind? On the south coast, so portions of southwestern Jamaica, portions of Kingston and St. Andrew. That's on both models. So there's a chance that if any afternoon convection should develop, it would be on the southern coast. And with the wind shear map showing more of a northeasterly flow across the island, this is 1 p.m. on Wednesday. For the Euro and the GFS, there's a chance that anything that should develop should only be affecting portions of southern Jamaica during the afternoon. However, with this significant feature map showing the cold front right there to the north of Jamaica, the chances are high that this cold front will be bringing a lot of moist air, strong winds, and possible rainfall to portions of northern Jamaica as well. Now, all of this wind that is coming down is passing right there throughout the Windward Passage. That's the area that's east of Cuba and west of Haiti right there. And all of that is blowing from a northeast to southwestern fashion. And the first place in Jamaica where that hit is Portland. That's one of the reasons why Portland is so wet, so the wettest parish across the entire island. That's mainly because all of that prevailing northeast trade wind causes relief rainfall across the island. So let's say all of this air right here on the left is Portland. All of that air rises, all of that warm moist air rises. It forms clouds and all of that air cools, and we get a lot of rainfall on the Portland side. So that's why we don't normally get a lot of rainfall on the south coast, the dry air, the dry side, where the air descends and warms. So let's say this side consists of St. Thomas, Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine. So while Portland would be there washing away all night into the early morning, Portland, St. Mary, St. Anne, parishes on the south coast on this side would be getting all of that rain shadow, less rainfall. That is what the relief rainfall is all about. That is what these northeasterly trades bring across the island. This is why Portland is so wet. And we know that when it comes to these mountains, let's say this is the Blue Mountain Peak, the clouds have a knack of bringing out more moisture across those areas, so maybe even some landslides and flooding and so on. So when we look at the precipitation forecast for tomorrow, this is showing 2 a.m. on Wednesday. We see some rainfall. Where do we see the blues? Portland, St. Mary, that's on the Euro. GFS is showing something similar, that's 2 a.m. Let's move forward. We go to 8 a.m. on the Euro. We're still seeing rainfall across portions of northern Jamaica on the Euro. Same thing on the GFS. If you also take a look at the afternoon, we still see some hint of rainfall across portions of northeastern Jamaica, but it's starting to incorporate portions of southern and southwestern Jamaica as well, both on the Euro and the GFS model. And if we actually take a look at the accumulated precipitation forecast for the next 24 hours, so let's say from now up until 3Z on Thursday, that is 10 p.m. when we calculated 10 p.m. on Wednesday. Look at the amount of rainfall that is accumulated to fall. We're not going to get all of this at once. It will be falling throughout the day from tonight, let's say early Wednesday morning, all the way up into the evening hours. This is anywhere from 0.25 to about almost an inch of rainfall. Where is the consensus according to the Euro and the GFS model? Northern parishes. So anywhere from St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland would get in on some of the rainfall. Some of it might even spill into portions of St. Thomas as well. So it makes sense that our workers here at Weather Jamaica made a post. They said the ECMWF and GFS supercomputer models are in agreement that sections of most northern parishes in Jamaica could receive rainfall on the morning of Wednesday, November 30th. Also affecting sections of some southwestern parishes on Wednesday afternoon. So basically the same images that were shown, rainfall on the northern coast, and then maybe during the afternoon on portions of the southern side of the island. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let's talk briefly about the rest of the Atlantic and the hurricane season, shall we? We're at November 29th. Tomorrow is Wednesday, November 30th. Tomorrow is the last day of the hurricane season. Where are we? We're somewhere right here next to December 1st. Look, we still have some reds and yellows right there in December. So that is basically showing us that we can still have activity in December. We've had it in the past. Let's hope it doesn't happen this year. And it might not, because look at the wind shear map. We seem to have a lot of wind shear across majority of the Atlantic, and we know wind shear is something that tears all of these clouds down so that they won't, be strengthening into storms or whatever the case may be. Most of the light wind shear is across portions of the south or southern or southwestern Caribbean right there, and we don't really have anything of an imminent threat in that area any at all right now. And we also have a lot of warm water across the Atlantic. Still with that La Nina in the Eastern Pacific, we still have a cooling down going on right now in the main development region. Hopefully it stays that way. No warm-ups, nothing imminent to cause any form of development. And if we also take a look at the air map, the Saharan air layer map, you can see we still have a lot of dry air across portions of the Caribbean, lots of dry air off the coast of Africa associated with the Saharan dust. Let's hope none of that gets into our area. More than likely next June, July is when we're going to be affected by that again. Alright, so if we actually take a look at the satellite images before the sun went down, we can see where we don't really have much to talk about. There's that cold front right there, north of the Bahamas. We have some clouds pushing their way all the way into portions of Costa Rica, and Nicaragua. And we don't really have much to talk about. We still have some patches of clouds right there across portions of Barbados, maybe even portions of Grenada and Tobago as well. Nothing really imminent to talk about. Let's hope it stays that way. And as such, the U.S. National Hurricane Center's page has nothing to show for the next 5 days across the Atlantic. That's very good. Let's hope it stays that way. 7 p.m. update, nothing at all. Alright, let's talk briefly about the forecast for the next couple of days. Look at Friday. Look at all of that northeasterly flow. Do you see those yellows and those oranges? That's anywhere between 20 to, let's say, 30 knots of wind. Look at all of that wind across the Bahamas, pushing all the way through the windward passage down into Jamaica. That's on the Euro, and the GFS is showing something similar. All of this is associated with that cold front, and look at all of that below normal or below average temperature that is pushing down into the island. This is even on December 3rd. Look at all of that cold air, and if we actually go out in time to the next couple of 120 hours, we still have a lot of cooler air across portions of the Caribbean. That's on the Euro, and if we actually take a look at the GFS, so showing the same thing for the next 120 hours up until the 4th of December. So we have some cool down, to experience for the next couple of days, and lots of persons are happy about that. Let's hope we actually enjoy this cool weather. Alright, so let's talk briefly about the precipitation forecast by the Euro. So with all of that cool air and strong wind comes some rainfall across portions of the Caribbean. So it's not just Jamaica that's going to be affected by all this rainfall, even northern portions of Hispaniola according to the Euro. So let's just look at the next 120 hours. Where do we see all of the rainfall? North coast of Portland. Not north coast of Cuba, north coast of Hispaniola, north coast of Jamaica, and even into portions of Puerto Rico up to the next 120 hours. What does the GFS show? GFS is showing something quite similar. Lots of northeasterly flow into the northern portions of the Greater Antilles. Look at all of that rainfall. So we have a lot of rainfall to receive. If you actually look at the next 24 hours, this is up until 10 p.m. on Wednesday. We can see where that northeasterly flow will bring rainfall across Jamaica. But what about the other island? Hispaniola, Cuba could receive some amount of rainfall as well on the north coast. What about the southern Caribbean islands? Nicaragua still getting in a lot of rainfall. Look at all of that tremendous, up to 1 inch or 2 of rainfall. Costa Rica and Panama as well. Maybe even portions of the ABC island and portions of the southern islands of the eastern Caribbean as well. So Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, not so much on the Euro. What does the GFS show? Something quite similar, the same areas that were just mentioned. Cuba, Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, northeastern Jamaica, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, the ABC Islands, as well as portions of the eastern Caribbean. What about the next 120 hours now? What do we see? Lots of rainfall across these areas up north in the Greater Antilles, all courtesy of that cold front and the rainfall that it will be bringing with it. So get yourselves ready to receive some rainfall if you're living on that side of those islands. Thank you all for watching. Please ensure that you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Do enjoy the rest of your weekend, your week, and stay safe. Bye now.